The first $100,000 is a strange number. When you have nothing, it sounds enormous. You imagine the day you'll finally see six figures sitting in your account. Maybe you think you'll feel rich. Maybe you'll finally relax, and money will stop occupying your mind every day. Then you actually get there. And strangely enough, you may not feel much different. You're still waking up for work, still paying bills, still checking grocery prices. You're still thinking twice before spending a few $100s. But something important has changed. You now own something that can start working without you. And that's why the first $100,000 can feel harder than the million that comes after it. Not because the first 100,000 is some magical financial threshold. It's because, in the beginning, almost all of the progress has to come from you. Your time, your income, your discipline, and your ability to keep money instead of spending it. When you start with $0, your money doesn't have much power. If you somehow invest $1,000 and earn 10%, you've made $100. That's nice, but $100 isn't changing your life. You still need your paycheck. You still need to work. You still need to save the next 1,000, and then the next one. This is what makes the early years feel so slow. You can spend months trying to save $5,000, only to look at your account and realize you're still incredibly far away from $100,000. Then life happens. Your car needs repairs. Your rent increases. A family member needs help. Your phone breaks. You lose a few weeks of income. Suddenly, the $5,000 you worked so hard to save isn't sitting there anymore. It's gone. And psychologically, that's brutal. Because when you're starting from zero, one unexpected expense can erase months of progress. That's the hidden difficulty of building your first serious amount of wealth. You're trying to build a financial foundation while life keeps testing it. And there's another problem. Your income usually grows slower than your desire to improve your life. You get a raise. Maybe your salary goes from $50,000 to $60,000. For a moment, it feels like you've made it. Then the apartment gets nicer. Car gets newer. You eat out more. You travel more. Subscriptions start appearing on your bank statement. Nothing feels outrageous. That's what makes lifestyle inflation so dangerous. You don't have to become reckless. You just have to slowly increase your spending every time your income increases. And after a few years, you can earn much more money without actually becoming much wealthier. Your lifestyle improved. Your net worth didn't. This is why reaching $100,000 usually requires something uncomfortable. You have to create a gap between what you earn and what you spend, and then protect that gap. If you earn $60,000 and spend $59,000, you have very little room to build wealth. If you earn $60,000 and spend $45,000, you've created a machine that can actually accumulate capital. That difference may not look exciting. It doesn't make for impressive social media posts. But that's where wealth usually begins. Not with $1 million business. Not with a lucky stock. Not with some secret investment. With money that stays. Now suppose you've managed to build $100,000. This is where the mathematics begin to change. Let's use a simple hypothetical example. If $10,000 grows by 8% in a year, that's $800. If $50,000 grows by 8%, that's $4,000. If $100,000 grows by 8%, that's $8,000. Same percentage. Completely different result. And that difference becomes larger as your capital grows. At $250,000, an 8% return would be $20,000. At $500,000, it would be $40,000. At $1 million, it would be $80,000. Your money hasn't become smarter. Percentage didn't change. You simply have more of it working. That's the part people often misunderstand about compounding. It doesn't feel powerful at the beginning. Compounding is almost boring when you're watching the first few $1,000s grow. Then one day, the numbers become large enough that the growth itself becomes noticeable. You might save $15,000 in a year, and perhaps your investments grow by another $10,000. Suddenly, your net worth increased by $25,000. Oh, you didn't work an extra year for that additional $10,000. Your existing capital produced it. And if you keep going, the next year starts with a larger base. That's the snowball. But there's something important here. Investment returns aren't guaranteed. Markets fall. Some years are terrible. Portfolio can lose value even when you've done everything right. So the lesson isn't that you can simply put $100,000 somewhere and watch it magically become $1 million. The real advantage is time. You give productive assets time to grow. You keep contributing. You avoid destroying the capital you've already built. And you allow the process to continue through good years and bad ones. That's difficult because human beings aren't naturally patient with money. We want visible results. We want proof that our sacrifice is working. Saving $500 feels good when you first start. But after you've saved $40,000, another $500 doesn't feel nearly as exciting. You're looking at the distance between $40,000 and $100,000. And suddenly, the finish line seems far away again. This is where many people quit. Not because they're failing, because progress has become boring. The early excitement is gone, but the boring years are often the years that matter most, because you're building something that doesn't look impressive yet. Think about someone with $25,000 invested. They might feel like they're nowhere close, but they're no longer at zero. They've already crossed the hardest psychological boundary. They proved they can accumulate money. They proved they can leave it alone. They've created a base, and every additional dollar is joining something that already exists. That's a very different position from starting with nothing. There's another reason the first $100,000 matters. It buys options, not luxury. Options. If you have no savings and your employer treats you badly, quitting can be terrifying. One missed paycheck can create a problem. If you have meaningful savings and investments, the same situation looks different. You may not love your job, but you have time to find another one. You can move. You can learn a new skill. You can start a small business. You can take a calculated risk. You don't have to accept every bad situation immediately, because you need tomorrow's paycheck to pay today's bill. That's one of the quietest benefits of wealth. It gives you room, and room changes decisions. Someone with $2,000 in the bank might look at a $1,000 emergency and feel panic. Someone with $100,000 in assets may still dislike the expense, but it doesn't necessarily threaten their entire financial life. The emergency becomes an inconvenience instead of a disaster. That's a massive difference. And it explains why wealth can begin to feel easier after the first major milestone. You become harder to knock back to zero. The first $100,000 also teaches you something that a high income doesn't automatically teach. How to keep money. You can earn $200,000 a year and still have almost nothing saved. You can earn $80,000 and steadily build a substantial net worth. Income is the fuel, but what you keep determines how much fuel actually reaches the engine. This is why a person making more money isn't automatically building wealth faster. If every raise becomes another expense, the higher income doesn't create much freedom. The person who earns less but consistently invests a meaningful portion may eventually have more financial security. And once your capital becomes large enough, the relationship between work and wealth begins to change. At first, you work and get paid. Then you save and invest.